Northwest Liberty News, picking the lock on the shackles of tyranny.
Machines are gonna fail, and the system's gonna fail.
The past is past, the future's now.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Sometimes trouble just follows a man.
There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus.
Can't you stop your lips from flapping for 2 little minutes?
It's because I'm white.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
I'm rapidly becoming a big underground success in this town.
It's a question of methods. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done.
And now, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, brought to you by Northwest Liberty News, it's Montana Gazette Radio with your host, James White. Okay, I'm your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. Thanks so much for joining me here live on this special Sunday broadcast on the 17th day of January 2021. We appreciate you tuning in here. If everything's working properly, we should be simulcasting on multiple Facebook channels, Twitch, multiple YouTube channels, DLive, and other fine platforms like Podbean and the like. So appreciate you joining us here today on the show. We have a returning guest. John Fuller is with us, and let me give John a quick introduction, and I'll bring him on the show. John Fuller is the recently elected chairman of the Flathead County Republican Central Committee and is also currently the representative of House District 8. He's a retired teacher and former congressional aide for former Congressman Ryan Zinke. A Vietnam veteran, he also tries to represent the core conservative Republican values of the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln. John's grandfather was a rancher from Cut Bank, and his great-grandfather was a hard rock miner from Butte. And we always enjoy having John on the show. Let me turn his microphone on here. And there we go. John Fuller, thanks so much for joining us here in the broadcast today, my friend.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me on this fine morning. It's the middle of January, and it's supposed to be winter, but it doesn't look much like winter out here.
No.
Anyway, I trust we got some snow for those snow lovers, but right now it looks like April.
It does. Well, it's snowing here for the first time. It has hardly snowed here in the Flathead Valley. As you know, it snows quite a bit here, but it's snowing overnight. This has been a mild, to say the least, a mild winter. So what's not been too mild is what's been going on there now in the last couple of weeks since I think this just finished your second week into the legislative session. Before we get into the specific topic that we're here today to talk about, and that's the bill that you sponsored, let's give me your overall view of. I mean, there was some controversy before with the speaker and, all that stuff that went on with that. Give me your view, just this first 2 weeks into the legislative session, your recap for us, if you can, how you think it's gone so far, and based upon these last 2 weeks, how do you see it going forward?
Well, after our first 10 days, we've only been 10 days, things are going to heat up considerably in the next week. We had a major victory as Republicans, as every single Republican in the House of Representatives voted for House Bill 102, which will make Montana probably the most gun-friendly owning state in the union. Representative Seth Bergley's bill was extraordinary. It answers all of the criticisms of those who feel that we haven't done enough to defend the Second Amendment, and it effectively refuted the arguments of those who want to stifle the Second Amendment. So we consider that a great victory, a really great victory. The leaderships of the committees are rolling along. The Republican agenda is now been introduced in various bills in both houses, for that matter. I think that when all is said and done, when we sine die 80 days from now, 80 working days from now, that we will have a very good budget. There will be some Republican principles established. There will be defense of the Second Amendment. I think there'll be defense of life and liberty bills. The budget will be accomplished. I do think that state employees will get a small pay raise after 1 year of holding fast again. I think the schools will be adequately funded. There will be probably, in light of the fact that revenues are down because of COVID, no one's going to be extraordinarily happy except gun owners. That's probably the biggest victory of all. But that probably means if no one's really completely and totally happy, that probably means we're doing the right job. With all in all, things are done pretty well.
Question, John, just real quick. You being a former school teacher for many, many years, what's your thought about the transition by, originally it was 80% and it fell back down and settled down. I think somewhere between 30 and 40% of parents have pulled their children out of the school system and decided to homeschool based upon the whole, with the COVID-19. And I think it was one of those things where they probably wanted to, or they thought about doing it before, but never was really forced to do it like they were when the COVID-19 thing hit. What's your thoughts, being a former school teacher, about people homeschooling their children and pulling them out of the education system that you worked in for so long? Now, you are conservative, of course. That's very well known. That's not always the case in the school systems. You're probably a minority, to say the least. What's your thoughts about that, John, about the homeschooling movement that's been across the country?
As a conservative Republican, I was an anomaly in the public school system. However, I regarded many of my colleagues as misguided rather than as devious or disingenuous. However, the homeschool movement element, what a unique concept, parents being actively involved in their child's education. Golly gee, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle the teachers are. Teachers have been wanting to see more and more of parents' involvement in their children's education. And maybe it takes COVID to provide an epiphany for this group of parents that have their kids in public schools right now. But it can only be healthy. And the efforts by the teachers to deal with the COVID mandates have been extraordinary, but it's no substitute for face-to-face communication between teacher and student. And I think all the teachers will agree with that. However, I have been embarrassed by some teachers that say they're absolutely refusing to go back, and it's not here in the Flathead or that much in Montana, but there have been a few teachers that have said no way they're going back in person until they get a vaccine, and they believe that teachers should get their vaccines first. I disagree with that. Vaccines, if they're going to be effective, but vaccines should be reserved to those who are most vulnerable health-wise. They shouldn't go based on occupation. I'm sorry. This particular virus has not impressed me with its mortality rate. It is serious,
to say the least.
It is serious, of course, but I've been embarrassed by teachers claiming that teachers should be the very first. If a teacher's 20-something and is healthy and has no comorbidities at all, the idea of placing them ahead of someone who is in their 70s but is retired and strikes me as being narcissistic at best. Okay, but anyway, in terms of homeschool education in progress, the one thing that education in America needs the most is active involvement of parents in their students' learning. And if it takes COVID to do that, this may be a blessing in disguise out of all of this. If more and more parents have decided, I'm getting involved in my child's education, if they homeschool, so be it. If they send their child back to schools when they get open. I hope that they continue that more concentrated involvement, because there's absolutely, positively no substitute for parent involvement in the education of their children.
You know, John, we're going to get to HB 112 in a minute, but it's been so long since I had you on. I'm trying to catch up on some things here with you, and then if you got the time, I'd certainly to talk about a couple other things. I had you on the show here, well, boy, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, I think, and I think I specifically asked you about, speaking of vaccines that you just mentioned, and I specifically asked you about forced vaccinations, and you said that you're not a fan of that. Do you still hold with that if someone wants to get the vaccine, they can get the vaccine, but the government shouldn't come in and hold someone down and force them to be shot with something that they don't want to be shot with? You still, I imagine, still hold to that.
Well, I don't think the government's going to hold anybody down and force them to do it, but they're going to do it with soft tyranny. They're going to say things like, well, you probably aren't going to be allowed to fly on an airplane if you can't have vaccination proof, or you're probably not going to be allowed to be a public school teacher or dealing with vulnerable children, who, of course, by the way, are not vulnerable to this virus, without showing proof of vaccination. And of course, I'm definitely not a fan of that. I will oppose that vigorously. So the idea but the left is definitely interested in controlling our lives, in controlling it in a lot of ways, and of course, the reason why the left needs control is because no one would voluntarily do the things that the left wants us to do. So that's why they have to intimidate, they have to censor, they have to utilize government control. And of course, there are significant numbers of people that are easily misled by the forces of communication that are completely in the hands of the left, or not, maybe not completely. But so if the government attempt, I don't think it's going to be very successful to Montanans. Montanans are a fiercely independent breed to mandate, but you better buckle up and put on your shield and sword, because after Wednesday, things are going to change dramatically in this country. Unfortunately, I think the significant numbers of the Democrats and progressives are more interested in revenge and retribution than they are in consensus and healing. I heard one caller into Aaron Flint say what Joe Biden says when he means heal is not H-E-A-L, it means H-E-E-L.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we're going to hit this next quick story right here that we broke last night on Montana Daily Gazette, and then we'll go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the bill that you sponsored. But can you see that right there, Bill? We broke this, or John, we broke this last night. This is a video from Lola Sheldon Galloway, where she was threatened by an apparent local veterinarian for the constitutional carry bill. And we don't have to play the video here, but the video is there if you want to go to Montana Daily Gazette. This is not about basically what you just said. This is not about. There's no unity. There's no unity in their heart, John. It's not coming together like they claim. It's nothing to do with that. It's, as you stated, crushing the opposition to powder so they never rise again and threaten their power structure ever in this lifetime or their lifetime. I mean, that's the way I see it, John. And before we go to break, can you comment on that fine legislator Lola Sheldon Galloway, who's really it's not an angry or violent person at all, not a bone in her body. But comment on that if you could, John.
Well, Representative Sheldon Galloway is one of the sweetest young ladies that you'd ever want to meet. But I listened to that tape. It pales in comparison to the phone calls and messages that I have gotten because of my bill that we'll talk about after break. Fortunately, I'm not intimidated or threatened. As an old Vietnam veteran, you're not going to intimidate me.
Yeah, I know that, man. All right, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We will take a quick break here, and we come back on the other side. We will talk about the bill that has brought up so much controversy here that he got published in NBC News and other outlets. John, before we go to break, is there any websites that you want to give out? Any Facebook pages? Any legislative emails? Anything like that? As the legislative session goes on, the people in your district want to reach out to you. They probably know how to already, but just for the sense of the folks that may be new listening in, anything you want to give out before we go to break?
Well, I encourage my constituents to communicate me with through the email that's listed on the House of Representatives website, it's john.fuller@mtleg.gov. I try to answer each and every constituent's email, regardless of their view compared to mine.
Very good, sir. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break here on the program and highlight some of our sponsors. And we come back on the other side. We're going to talk about House Bill 112, where I'm understanding now we're hearing from John that he's getting threatened over introducing it, and we're gonna dig into that and more when we come back on the other side. MontanaGazetteRadio.com or MontanaDailyGazette.com. And of course, you can always go to the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. My name is James White. We'll be back after these brief messages here. John, I'm going to put you on mute, if that's okay. And then what I'll do is we'll put you on mute, and I'll bring you off mute when we come back on the other side. I'll be back after these brief messages. If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today. Okay, folks, thanks for hanging on after the break. I'm your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. If you want to support this program, you can do so by supporting our sponsors. Right now, we're running some great specials over there at PatriotPrepared.com. If you have not yet got storable food or water purification or stoves and toiletry kits, that type of thing, you can find all that and much more over there at PatriotPrepared.com, and all purchases help support this broadcast. Okay, we're going to bring our guest John Fuller back on the line here from Montana House District 8, and we're going to get right down to the brass tacks, as they say, to the topic that we're really one of the main reasons we want to have John on. It's always great to have John on and get his insight. But he made national news here yesterday. I believe it was NBC News. Let me pull that article up here, and other places. Let me pull that article up here. There we go. From NBC News, Montana Republican targets transgender youth with 2 new bills. Now, let me stop this right here. Targets transgender youth. It's almost like you're like hunting or something. I mean, it's like a target. And isn't it funny? Even the headline on mainstream media, you can already tell that they're trying to demonize you for, I guess, not being woke enough, John. Before we get through this right here, tell us about House Bill 112 as a backdrop, and then we'll cover some of these things here on this NBC report.
Okay, as a backdrop, I have to tell a quick story. In 1972, Congress passed the Title IX to the Federal Education Act, and Title IX, as everyone should know, mandated that all public schools must provide equal access to athletics for males and females. Okay, Title IX has, in my humble opinion, been one of the most beneficial social justice acts passed by Congress, ranking right up there with the GI Bill and the Homestead Act. Okay, it has revolutionized America. It has revolutionized opportunities athletically and economically and socially for women. Okay, I started coaching women's sports in 1973. Primarily, of course, as many people know, an old wrestler, an in-your-face, hardcore, beat-em-down wrestling coach. But I coached women's soccer and women's cross country. And I've been a firm defender, and I firmly believe that the success of women's sports has been responsible for the dramatic progress that women have made in all aspects of life. For instance, 95% of CEOs of female CEOs of major industries throughout the America competed in athletics in their prep years. Okay, so with that, when the beginnings of what were transgender males trying to compete on female teams, I found was absolutely unfair. Okay, it's unfair, and the science. If the people believe in science, the science is clear that males, even if they've been taking hormones treatments for 2 years, still have bigger, stronger, faster skeletal and muscular structure over females. And so a mediocre male athlete competing as a female, even if he's undergone hormone treatments, has an inherent advantage strictly because of some kind of chemical and or medical intervention. Now, one of the biggest problems in sports is the use of steroids to increase muscle strength and speed and performance. Why would we even begin to think that it would be okay for someone to take a sport, to take some chemicals or drugs and have them compete against females and thus shoulder women off the podium for someone else? That was my thinking and my concern. Okay, and so I introduced House Bill 112 in the Montana House of Representatives, and all it simply says, it's very simple. It says that if you're in a publicly sponsored sport, there will be male sports, there will be female sports, and there can be co-ed sports. Okay, but you are to compete in the sport of your sex identified at birth. That's all it says. Boom. This is not a targeting of transgender youth. If you have a transgender male that's trying to transform into a female, he competes as a male. Okay, it doesn't matter what he looks like. He competes as a male. Okay, and if a transgender female wishes to transform into male, she competes as a female. Okay, but we don't see that yet. I don't know whether we will in the future or not. Now, if people want to introduce male sports, female sports, co-ed sports, and transgender sports, so be it. If school boards and regents wish to introduce that sort of thing, but I believe that transgender males competing as females in female sports is a violation of the spirit and the law of Title IX. Now, full disclosure, the next president of the United States has announced that he's going to make Title IX executive orders that will allow transgenders to compete, as I said, at executive order. That does not mean, however, that they will necessarily apply in Montana, because Montana is still in charge of its own sports in its own public schools and its own universities. Okay, so the idea that I am targeting transgenders, that I'm going to increase the suicide rate, that I have some kind of phobia against them is absolutely untrue. Okay. I am concerned about young women being unfairly treated in the world of sports that has done so much for women over the past 50 years or almost 50 years since 1972. That's House Bill 112.
Well, tell me if you can, what has been the response of the other legislators that you've? I'm not sure if you had someone whip this before you put it out there and got an idea of kind of get some feedback. The other legislators, the other conservative legislators, are they behind it? A, and then B, you mentioned that you've got some nasty emails, and probably nasty is a little bit of an understatement if a death threat to Lola is minor. And if you want to talk about some of those, if you didn't want to give them oxygen, I understand. But
Okay.
if you'd like to, go ahead and comment on that.
Well, okay. I among the Republican caucus, I believe that there are a large majority that will vote in favor of this bill. The Democrats, even those I think that in their heart of hearts know that this is good and in defense of women, will probably stay united in opposition because they march to the same drummer always. I don't know, but regardless of what the vote is on the floor and in this, if it makes it to the Senate, regardless, the people will know then what legislators think about this issue. But my feedback from constituents and my feedback from fellow legislators is that this is common sense, okay? And of course, the idea that common sense is all that common might be naive, but still, that's where I'm at. I am attempting to defend the great progress that women have made in sports over the past 50 years. And I guess I'm not surprised at my age. I'm not surprised by much of anything, but the vitriol and the expressions of hatred that have been besieging me are a little bit unexpected. But then again, I doubt very much if they read the bill.
That always, that was always confusing to me how they, for example, women will stand up for the right of Muslims, let's say, and they want to subject them to slavery if they had their chance and cover their face and have them be secondhand citizens. It's almost like they don't think things through. They just, like you said, they're almost like piranhas that just go after, a fallen animal in the Nile, and they don't even really think about what the long-term effects. I mean, think about it. For example, it doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal. If you've got a woman that's trained her whole life and she's took care of herself and daily worked out and exercised and ate correctly, and then she gets to the big time when it's time for competition, and someone that was born a man comes in and like you saw some of these races and stuff, John, they're beating these women by, just smoking them. Some of these men that were competing as women, it wasn't even close. They were destroying. Especially the weightlifting. Did you see the weightlifter? Just setting world records. These quote unquote female weight. This is just common sense tells you that it's not correct, but sometimes that's not always enough, is it, John? That's why you have to put a bill forward.
Well, you wouldn't think I would have to, but I just have a couple of quick points. One, I don't think that women or girls, females, should be spectators in their own sports. Women have fought long and hard for equal athletic opportunities. Title IX was designed to stop discrimination and create equal athletic opportunities for women. Allowing males to compete in girls' sports reverses nearly 50 years of advances, and the message to girls is you deserve equal opportunities except in sports. Okay, so every male on the podium displaces a deserving female. Okay, and athletes, as you said, female athletes train tirelessly to shave mere fractions of a second off their race times, for instance, but that effort is wasted if girls are going to lose to males regardless. Okay. In 1 year, I believe it was 2018, it might have been 2019, 275 high school boys ran faster time than the lifetime best of world champion sprinter Allison Felix. Okay. So allowing males to compete in girls' sports spells the end of girls' sports. Okay, we will have men's sports and we'll have co-ed sports. That's it. And that's why I wrote this bill.
So as we wrap up here, John, how can people that, not everyone's going to be sending you nasty emails. There are going to be probably plenty of people that are going to support you, me included. How do we show support for your bill? Do you want people to send in emails to that legislative email that you said before? Would that help? Will that help as you present it and you put it, bring it to the floor?
Their own legislator, in the political process, what counts is votes.
Right.
Okay. Opinions don't count until they're transformed into votes. And so send emails to your legislators, to your state representatives and your state senators, informing them that you support the idea that equal access to athletics for women means that males don't compete as females.
Fair enough. John Fuller, we appreciate you coming on the broadcast today. Is there anything that you wanted to say in closing, John? Is there any other bills that you have that you're going to be sponsoring down the pipeline? I don't want you to give away your secrets or give away your strategy, and I say secrets, but strategy more or less.
Well,
go ahead.
Actually, the most controversial bill that's going to be heard tomorrow is Bill 113, House Bill 113, which is also my bill. And House Bill 113 will forbid the chemical and or surgical alteration of the sex of someone who is a child.
So have you been getting, that's just as big of a bill as well. Have you been getting hate mail?
It may be even bigger.
Yeah, are you getting hate mail on that as well?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
And of course, if you would believe the people, transgender youth, children, they need care and they need compassion and they need counseling. Okay. But they don't need life-altering medical procedures that have irreversible consequences. Okay, if they're an adult and they wish to go into that treatment, so be it. They are mature enough then, by definition, to do so. But we all the time, as a government, I've been accused of being not a Republican for this, what they say is intrusion. We do, the state has a vested interest in protecting children all the time. We do so, from mandatory reporting of abuse to even the most radical step of taking children away from their biological parents if we feel that there is a justified cause. And the law books and court cases are full of that. And we all know that we've had tremendous increases of child abuse since COVID lockdown. Okay, so we have that. It is my humble opinion that inflicting irreversible medical techniques that can endanger someone's their life and their well-being in the future while they are still a child is not for even parents to do. Okay,
no,
you don't maim your child.
Well, we could certainly go into the actions of the DPHHS when it comes to taking children in another show. But I can say this: someone that's 7 or 8 years old is no way has the mental capacity or the forethought to decide that they want to change their sex when they're 7 or 8 years old. And it's madness. It's a madness on its face to think that this would be okay. So it's HB 113. I didn't know about that one until you told me about that, but I'll include that in my report. That's a big one too. That's great. So have you got good response from that as well? You think that's going to pass?
Well, the two are very, very similar in their responses from individuals. Either people are, I don't see much of people favoring one and not favoring the other, or vice versa. They are either supporting both bills or they oppose both bills. And of course, as you can see, the belief is that I am targeting transgender use at all. No, I'm trying to protect women and children.
That's what men do, John. That's what real men do. Real men protect women and children. That's what real men do. And sadly, there's a huge shortage of real men in this country. There's a lot of males, not a lot of men, unfortunately, John. But we appreciate your stand on that, and we'll support you and your endeavors with these two bills. And we certainly do appreciate you taking time out on your days off. I guess you really don't have a day off, I guess, when you're in a legislative session, but we do appreciate you taking time to come on the broadcast here with us this morning. Is there anything else, John, that you wanted to say before we close out the broadcast?
I want to thank you for an opportunity to get out my side of this bill and this issue. And again, that speech and freedom are valuable things that need to be protected. And I thank you so much for the opportunity and your efforts to protect them.
John, you're always welcome on my program, my friend, and I do appreciate what you're doing. I'll keep you on speed dial, and if anything comes up, just give me a call. Be happy to have you back on again. Thanks so much, John Fuller, one of the good guys. Appreciate you. There goes John Fuller, a real patriot, folks, and we do appreciate him taking time to come on the broadcast with us today. If you're in Montana and this type of stuff is important to you, then send your legislator an email. You can just go to the Montana Legislative website and then make it pretty easy for you to find out your legislator based upon where you live in your district, and the email should be set right there for you to send. And it does, I had two legislators on yesterday. Actually, I had Commissioner Pinocci on and Brad Cheetah on yesterday. And he had stated that, sending letters are important. Don't send the form letters that everybody sends in. And if they get, 300 form letters, that is a lot different than getting 10, personal written letters that are not form letters, that are from, genuine people that have genuinely taken the time to send that. So, folks, as you can see now, I hope you can see with what's going on all across the country, that the only way things are going to change is if we get involved and help affect the change that we want to see. That's it. These criminal legislators, and many of them are criminals, that are in power right now, and of course I'm not talking about John Fuller and the Montana or even anybody. I'm talking about nationally. You see these crooks that operate nationally, and there's a lot of them locally too. The only way that these people are going to be brought to heel, to use a term that John used in the interview, is for people to stand up. That's it. Excuse me. Right? The person that you need to activate is the one looking at you right now in the mirror. I've said it 100 times. Don't wait for a call from President Trump. He's not going to call you. He's not going to give you a personal phone call and say, Bob, okay, I need you to start acting like a patriot. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. Right? It's time. I'm telling you, now is the time. Call on these bills. Call your legislators. Become active. Get involved. That's how things change. That's how things change. If you turn the guardianship of your liberties over to politicians, you're going to get what you deserve. And that's going to be tyranny. It's going to be tyranny every single time. We appreciate you looking here on a broadcast today. You can support us by going to Montana Gazette Radio, Montana Gazette Radio, or MontanaDailyGazette.com. And of course, you can go to the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. We do appreciate you looking here on the broadcast. Breaking a really, really big story here, probably tomorrow, later today or tomorrow, about some crooks here in Montana. Can't wait to get that out. I just talked to one of the principals here before the show. So keep an eye out for that on Montana Daily Gazette. Appreciate you looking in. Until next time, this is James White for Montana Daily Gazette and Montana Gazette Radio. Saying bye now.